Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Famvestor Podcast. I'm your host, Sunmarie Burns.
And I'm your co-host, Sunny Burns.
So today we have a really exciting episode today. We speak to Sammy Uyama, who has a really unique life story. And one thing that I took away from it is that his story really represents the whole purpose of what we're striving for in Famvestor, living a life of intention from day one, giving your all to whatever you're working on and really making the most out of this life, the best that you can. And he has this really crazy story. He starts from his childhood, middle school, takes us through his entire life. It's quite
But it's fascinating.
Chronological journey. And it's a fascinating story into his life and the passions he's pursuing, entrepreneurial, living abroad, working with the High Noon nonprofit initiative, which he will talk about, and being homeschooled, and just so many interesting topics that we delve into. I think you'll find it
going through college and graduating with a positive net worth,
debt-free, right? A lot of insight that can be quite eye-opening. I think you'll enjoy this episode. It's a long one, but it doesn't feel long because you'll be pulled in by the story. So with that, let's get into the show.
You're listening to the Famvestor Podcast. If you're looking to raise your family with intention, gain financial independence, and live a life of true freedom, you're in the right place. Join us as we explore together how to create thriving families, because strong families are the cornerstone for a world at peace.
Hello everyone, welcome back. Today I am super excited. I say that every episode, but really excited this time. We have a really good friend on the show. Sammy Uyama, say hi.
Hello everybody, and I like to think you're the most excited this time.
I am the most excited of all 63 episodes we've done to this point, because we have the one, the only Sammy Uyama, father of two, High Noon director, podcaster, ebook writer, expat living in Korea right now. He traveled multiple countries with his little one. How many countries was that, Sammy?
That was last summer in Europe. We went to 18. We went to 18 countries.
18 countries. Was she under one? How old was she?
We did for 2 months, started at 4 months, and by the time I ended, she was 6 months old.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. 18 countries. So definitely want to talk about that. But yeah, I feel like a lot of different topics to dive into here with Sammy. But let's talk about, maybe let's start with, our podcast touches a lot of different topics, all about family, finance, and freedom. And maybe just like kind of the life you're leading now. Where does your origin story begin?
Wow. Gosh. And, first I want to say I really appreciate your interest in having me on.
Yeah, of course.
Like I know one of the things we're talking about is like, what would you like me to talk about and share about? And I appreciate you guys, and what you responded was that I appreciate you guys thinking that me and my wife and our family are just living an overall interesting enough life to be considered to come on for you guys. And because actually a lot of what you guys' podcast covers is just a myriad of different areas that we're very interested in and that we make a lot of very intentional effort to grow and excel in. My origin story, I was born in North Carolina. I've got, my dad is Japanese, my mom is Welsh. And so they both immigrated to America and settled in North Carolina, of all places. And I've got one younger brother. So it was, just two boys growing up. It was a very rambunctious household. And, we lived in the Deep South in a time when not a lot of half Asian people lived in the Deep South, right? So, one of my early memories of school, I went to kindergarten, my elementary school, I went in kindergarten, and I was there for like 3-4 years. And by the time I was in third grade, I've been there a long time. I grew up in America. My English is fine. Our school got a new guidance counselor that year, and she pulled me out of class randomly one day. And I was just a super shy kid, right? So I was just like, oh, what's going on? And am I in trouble? And she brought me down to the ESL class.
Oh, no.
And sat me down there. And I'm just a super shy kid. So I just sat there and was going along with it. And I was there for maybe about like less than 10 minutes before the ESL teacher realized that I didn't actually need to be there.
I have a similar story. You know, I was born in Louisiana, been here all my life, and then in kindergarten they just put me in ESL because of my full first name, Sung Cook. They're like, oh, this guy must be, speaking Korean or whatever. And I had to have been there at least a year or two, though. It wasn't 10 minutes for me, but I enjoyed it. I think ESL was fun.
They're like, wow, I'm like the best student here. Yeah, same actually. Because Samuel is my middle name, so my first name is actually a super hard to pronounce Japanese name with like R's and stuff in it, and so that probably lent itself to why she's going through the roster and just kind of had that idea.
Easy pick. Let's throw him into ESL.
Let's see what else about me. So yeah, I grew up in North Carolina my whole life. I started homeschool. No, actually, middle school I went to Korea for a boarding school program. It was like a cultural exchange opportunity. It wasn't exchange. It was like a dormitory where you go to Korea and then you learn the language and you have the opportunity to experience the culture. Oh, and wow. It's normally a 1-year program, and then there's the option for those that wish to stay longer to eventually enroll in the public school and really have an immersive experience. So I stayed for 2.5 years and I learned Korean and I went to public middle school, and
that must have been a fascinating experience to have at such a young age in middle school.
Yeah, it was a blast. I mean, it was imagine actually living with your friends 24/7. I mean, that's what it was like. And we had a great time in Korea. Korea is such a safe country, and there's public transportation. So from a young age, you can experience a lot of independence, being able to get around and experience things. It's not like you need a parent to drive you around somewhere. And then after I got back, I had to begin school in America again. And at the time, when my best friend's family, they have 8 kids and their whole family homeschooled.
Wow.
And so, that of course made a really big impression on me. And specifically my friend, who's the oldest in that family, he was very ambitious academically, and he did 2 years in one. And so, and then at 17 graduated high school and then enrolled in his local community college.
Wow.
And that just became my goal. I was like, wow, that's like so cool. It's such a good use of time. And so I was 15 by the time I returned to America. And I decided I wanted to homeschool, and I wanted to go through it quickly, and I wanted to get a head start on my college education. And my mom was very supportive to kind of find out the resources and the opportunities available. And most community colleges, they have opportunities. They call it dual enrollment in many places, where as a high school student, you can take the college level classes for free. And so I enrolled in many of those kind of classes. And so by the time I was technically doing high school and just taking college classes at the community college. But awesome. By the time I was enrolled, my very first class was like English 101, and I was taking college English, and I was looking at my high school curriculum, and it was English on there, and I was just like, why on earth would I be bothering taking this high school English? I'm already taking college English, right? So I slowly just phased out a lot of my classes that I was taking. So I guess like technically I didn't finish a lot of grades and and a lot of the curriculum that you're expected to do as a homeschooler. But by the time I officially graduated high school, I had a 1.5 years worth of college credit.
That's awesome.
Wow.
And all for free.
That's fantastic.
It's because I was technically a high school student, and then
I think a lot of community schools, especially around here, we've looked into it. Like they'll allow high schoolers to just enroll in the community college and start, accruing all those credits. And it sounds like you were pretty close to your associates by the time you graduated high school, which is sweet.
Yeah.
And so those credits, even though they were free when you took them, they did count toward an associate's degree when you finished high school. Is that
exactly? Yeah. So that's why I was doing it. Is that I graduated almost with an entire associate's degree.
Wow, what a fantastic arrangement to make.
Yeah, and I could just credit my friend, right, who gave me the idea, and I actually asked him a lot of questions because he was a couple years ahead of me in this process and figured out a lot of stuff. And then my mom also, who just had the initiative to go down to the community college and find who to ask questions and just to figure out all the paperwork stuff. And wouldn't have been possible without their support.
Wow.
Right. And especially also, I needed someone to drive me to class in the beginning, right? So she did that also.
Yeah, I love hearing all these savvy
yeah.
stories, especially with so many people these days graduating with 6 figures in college debt, and then doing a year and a half for free. What was the rest of your college like? Did you graduate with debt? How'd that go?
Right. So before, the really unique opportunity that provided for me was I took a gap year program after officially finishing high school. Stayed on a semester because I wanted to finish my associates, right? And then I took a gap year, and I know for a lot of people it's like this decision to make, and it ends up being a really big sacrifice, right? It's like getting a year behind in order to have this amazing experience. And I think it's something everyone should do. It's very worth it. But I was really fortunate to be in this position that I could do that, and I was at no loss in my timeline. I was still able to graduate alongside the rest of my normal class, right? And that gap year was. I want to mention it because it was such a formative time of my life. It was a faith-based gap year, and it really solidified my spiritual life. And that's when I made, to this day, some of the closest friends that I have some of the most incredible memories. During that 1 year, I traveled across the entire United States. Yeah, and it made a huge impression on me and really developed my character. So a lot of the what my characters allowed me to reap and how I've benefited from how I've grown, a lot of it was formed in that time. So I really wanted to mention that. And I'm a huge advocate for taking time to invest in yourself in that way and not just going straight into college right after high school.
What an incredible journey from such a young age. I feel like a lot of times people are in a cookie cutter pattern, and they don't have those opportunities. But, when you move outside that box, such real life experiences you can have from a young age. And then when you reach, college, you already are coming to the table with such life experience. It just brings your studies to a whole new perspective. And I also would assume a renewed sense of focus and purpose in why you're continuing your education, not to do it because everybody else does it, but to do it because, you have a purpose and a reason for why you're doing it.
Yeah. Very much. I don't know why. I think my mom, one of the things she instilled in me was just like this willingness to read books and to learn things. And she did that. Like she read a lot of parenting books and a lot of homeschooling books. And she always encouraged me and my brother to read. And she never felt that, I'm supposed to know this already, or even like, I already know this. She was just like, let me figure out what the best way to do this is.
Nice.
Right. And so me and my brother always had that mindset. And from a really young age, we would just take the time to look at what options are available and what we want to do and what makes sense for us.
Well, that's fantastic. I love that. So where did that take you in your life journey after that? You finished your associate's degree, you took a gap year, and then you returned to college. What did you pursue, and what did you want for your future life?
Yeah. So during that gap year, I also got married.
Oh, wow.
I think that might be worth mentioning.
That's not a minor detail.
Yeah. So I had the opportunity and we were matched. It was an arranged marriage. Right. So this opportunity came up, and I participated in this matching ceremony process, and it was very much, we were just like introduced to each other, and we had a couple days to discuss with one another, get to know each other, and see whether we wanted to accept that relationship and prepare to be married together. And we had the time, and we agreed. And it was a faith-based process. So a lot of my mindset going in was with this mindset of trying to allow God to work in my life, right? And so anyway, the fast forward, it's been 10 and a half years since then. And it was definitely one of the best things that I've ever been able to experience. Wonderful. And I'm so fortunate and very, very grateful for that. Really ironic is that this person I was introduced to, she's actually Korean. And so those years of time in Korea turned to be out so helpful. Wow. Honestly, I had a great time living in Korea, and it was one of the best times of my life. And I was 15 when I returned to America. And when I was getting on the plane going back, I very sincerely thought I was never going to use Korean again in my entire life. And I was like going to America, ending a chapter of my life. It did not matter to me anymore. Lo and behold, right? It's like, and I don't know if there's like one, I'm very like pragmatic kind of person. I don't tend to lean on a lot of like spiritual and God is working serendipity, right? Mm-hmm. But if there's anything in my life I can look at and like, wow, God, I was very, God was preparing me in some way and guiding me down some way. I really feel like that whole experience was one way for me.
Yeah, amazing.
I enrolled in university. I went to the University of North Carolina. I mean, it was another just very fortunate thing that my local school, I mean, it's like 35, 40-minute drive from my house. In-state tuition, just one of the universities I had access to locally happens to be one of the best universities in the country.
Oh, wow.
It was just a very fortunate opportunity that was available for me. And so that was always, for a long time, that was my goal. Like from a young age, it was, okay, I knew when starting community college that they have, all the in-state schools, all the community colleges have a relationship with the state schools, right? Mm-hmm. So all my credit, I knew what credits or courses I needed to do that would transfer well and which wouldn't. Mm-hmm. And I decided early on, I wanted to focus and study business. And so even in community college, I was looking at, okay, what classes do I need to take? What prereqs are there? And so it was very smooth, what's called transfer. Mm-hmm. And I enjoyed university life a lot. The first semester, it was pretty rough. There was a few classes that I could only take at university. I was not available in community college that I needed to take in order to be accepted to the business program. And so I had a huge workload the first semester. And also I realized that university community college are very different levels, the rigor. Mm-hmm. And just as one example, I took a math class in community college, but ended up not transferring. So I had to take the exact same class again at UNC. And so when I took it at community college, it was the same textbook and everything. I took it at community college, I got an A. It was pretty straightforward. I took the exact same class at university, exact same material. I got an A- in that class. Right. So I got dumber in that first semester.
How interesting.
But yeah, university was a great experience. Honestly, if I look back on my life, I think that I wish that was a time I took more advantage of. The university, like the environment has so many opportunities available, extracurriculars and just resources that I didn't take full advantage of. At community school, my brother, he was a grade behind me. So we actually, for the most part, attended university around the same time. So we would commute together. Mm-hmm. It was much cheaper than us like individually finding somewhere to live.
Right.
Did the same.
And so yeah, our mindset was just like go to class, come home right away.
Yeah.
Right. So I wish I'd explored more.
I resonate with that too. I know when I was in college, I had a similar experience where I feel like I really focused on the academic side of it. I studied the course content. I focused on my classes, went back home, and then that was the end of it. And in retrospect too, I think I share a similar regret almost that I didn't explore more of the opportunities the school had for broadening horizons in terms of like extracurricular things. I really only started getting into my senior year, and I wish I had started at an earlier point in time because I really loved all that experience I got in my senior year through like intramural sports and clubs and all sorts of great volunteer opportunities.
Your question was, did I have any debt coming out of college? I came out positive, was completely debt free.
Wow.
UNC, and again, just another opportunity that I happened to have available. UNC created this, it's called the Carolina Covenant. It's a very generous scholarship program that actually many universities in the country model, they took that example, they created something similar. And so I was one of the first classes to go through that scholarship, and it's like a merit-based, needs-based kind of scholarship. It's to qualify, it's needs-based, but then you have to have certain academic record in order to qualify, right? And they give you full everything. It's a great scholarship.
Wow.
And,
Wow.
They gave us full everything. It's actually not as good as Suncook scholarship, right? Like they actually paid you, but
would they have paid your room and board if you wanted it or no?
No, they gave me. Yeah, no, they technically did. I mean, they gave me cash, right?
Oh, wow.
So, which is supposed to go for room and board, and books. So it's not like it was coupons. All the expenses were covered, tuition and all those.
That's
and then they
awesome.
just gave me a huge lump sum of cash meant to be used for books and for room and board. And
Wow.
I was very savvy with I learned very quickly how little you actually use many of your textbooks. So I got very smart at like starting class and then checking to see whether I really needed it, and then checking if it was used available. And a lot of books are actually available for free at the library. I mean, you couldn't take it home, but you could use it there. And I was living at home, so I mean, I ended each semester with like $10,000-$11,000.
Wow.
That's awesome.
No, oh god, actually, I don't remember if I was year or semester, but like a lot of cash that I was very happy with at the time.
Yeah, positive net worth. You never hear that.
Yeah, I think it's something to be said that there are some states that have better programs set up for continuing education than others. So, like it's worth considering if you're trying to find a way for yourself to pay for college. You don't want to go into extreme debt and you live in a state that maybe doesn't offer those programs. Perhaps considering relocating, taking a year off, establishing yourself in that state and looking into the programs they offer. Like North Carolina has a very good system for scholarships and financial aid. I think Georgia has a pretty good one, and New Mexico has a pretty good one. I know there's certain states that are more conducive to affordable education.
I think there's a lot of it out there, but a lot of people are so bent on finding, some private school that has a really good name, and that, a lot of state schools have good names too, but, there's the step in between with like the community school, and then you go to the state school or something like that. And those programs exist even here in New Jersey. And a lot of people just were like, no, I just want to go to my private school and have that dream, living in the dorms and all that. But that does require a lot of financial sacrifice, especially in the later half if you accrue all that debt.
Right. And I think there's
actually,
also not a lot of knowledge.
One thing. Yeah, that's the main. I mean, one thing I wanted to clarify with Summary said, like, actually, a lot of these universities the scholarship is available in state or out of state. So I know the Carolina Covenant, my scholarship, for example, was they had a ratio they would allow for in-state and out-of-state, but it was available to everybody.
Oh,
so a lot of students receive that scholarship out of state. So you don't necessarily have to get in-state tuition, right? It's a great hack to like get residency, but there are scholarships available that you don't necessarily need to do that.
Well, that's
right. And I think just information, there's so much available out there, and you've already had like a lot of people on. I've listened to all of your episodes, by the way, right? So I'm
nice.
I'm not just like showing up, and like even my brother, he wanted to do a study abroad in Japan one semester, and he didn't have the money for it, right? And so he just looked for random scholarships, and what allowed him to do that was Harris Teeter, of all places, had some random like $3,000 scholarship that he just applied for and he got, and he was able to have an amazing summer abroad. No, it was just the Harris Theater, whatever random scholarship that he found online he applied for.
Wow.
Right? It's like a lot of this kind of stuff is available if you just are willing to look for it.
Yeah.
Right. And get over your concepts of like, oh, that scholarship is meant for somebody other than me. Like give it a shot. Try for it. You'd be surprised what you get.
Yeah.
I mean, he applied for like 20 and he got like, one or two.
That's all you need.
It was not,
Well, it was well worth the effort, I'd say.
And one thing you guys said that I really wanted to emphasize was like, reconsidering like what the value of something is. And people have that mindset of I want that name brand private university. I think that now people are really starting to reconsider that, given the world situation right now, especially with university education. I was just reading an article the other day that people are really starting to question what the value of a university degree is, because like they're all online now. You're doing it from your home, and every single university is charging the same level of tuition, right? And so it's really throwing people off. They're like, previously it was without question, it's worth that money, and without really considering what you're getting for it. You just feel like the whole package. It's like the education plus the experience of it.
Right.
And now people are looking at, well, the experience is not available anymore. I'm just going to be at home. Is just the education, is it really going to be worth that?
Right. Interesting.
Yeah. So Sammy, I'm curious, not many people graduate with a positive net worth. I was lucky to do that. And I feel like that really kind of transformed my mindset. So many people, they have 6 figures in debt anyway. What's more? Let's just lease a car out. Let's, buy a house and just accrue all this debt. But I feel like once you've been able to keep that away, you've been able to live debt free. I feel like it changes your mindset. Did you feel the same way? And were you able to take advantage of that?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's one of the areas I'm most keen on is personal finance, right? It was always something I was very conscious of. Again, just my mom, she just gave us the books, right? And we read them. And so Dave
gave
Ramsey,
you a personal finance book? Oh, Dave Ramsey. Yeah, awesome.
Dave Ramsey, right? So
as a high schooler.
As a high schooler. I mean, and also we never listened to music. We always listened to audiobooks. And so she would, books on CD. I mean, books on tape. I mean, I was like a little kid when we started. So we went through everything, books on tape to books on CD. And that was just what we did. My mom would just play it and we were interested in it. And so I was really lucky just to grow up with that mindset about how to manage money from a really young age and about debt specifically. And so I was really keen on finding ways to not have it. And it's definitely allowed myself and, me and my wife to pursue opportunities that wouldn't have been available otherwise. It's such a stark contrast, the way you view opportunities when you have payments you have to make every month versus when you don't. And then the risks that allows you to take. Right. And my wife and I, we've spent months traveling the world together before children and even after children. And it's these really enriching experiences that wouldn't have been possible if we had this debt mounting on us. And those early, and it was really good for college kid, but all those years I never really had cushy money. It's not like I had a lot of money or anything. Just what we had going for us is we had no debt. So we would just save money a little bit at a time, and we always for a really clear purpose. And then once we had a few $1,000s, and my wife and I, we spent 3 months traveling India, Nepal, Japan, Korea, Philippines.
Wow.
And actually those are 2 different trips. It was 3 months and then 2.5 months for one. And
wow.
We've taken road trips around the whole country and sleeping in the back of we had a hatchback and we put a futon in the back and
nice.
We would sleep in the back. And we've been as far as from North Carolina, as far as Utah.
Wow.
What's after? Oh, and we went to, we did go to Yellowstone and the Grand Tetons.
Wow.
Sammy, when you're sleeping in the back of a hatchback with a futon and it gets really hot and you want to open windows, but then mosquitoes come in, how do you deal with that?
Right. Yeah. So we figured all this out. Right.
Tell me the answer, Sammy.
So we just got we just found some random mosquito netting.
Okay.
And then you crack the windows, and then you close the door on the mosquito net.
Okay.
So there's a seal.
Right.
And then you have a workable mosquito net, and you can open the windows as much as you want.
Awesome. We should have talked to Sammy before we took our honeymoon across the country in the back of our hatchback as well.
And we all sorts of little hacks. My wife and I are not small, really. I'm 6 foot, 190 pounds. My wife is 5'9". I'll leave it at that.
Quite tall.
5'9". I'm not going to tell you how much.
More details.
She's
we
not
never
a small
discuss
woman,
a woman's weight.
And we've both figured out a way to fit really comfortably in the back of a Prius. And we figured out how to apply some plywood to extend the back and very comfortably be able to lay out for both of us.
That's awesome. And you were staying at mostly state parks, or what were you staying at?
A lot of parking lots.
Okay.
Yeah. Walmarts are great because they allow people to come. And there's certain Walmarts where they get a lot of traffic. It's a known thing. So a lot of RVs will come and a lot of people will come. So it can be kind of loud. Also truckers, a lot of truckers will stop at those places, and truckers, they sleep with their engine on all night, right? 'Cause
Yes.
it's cheaper than like turning it off and on.
Oh, interesting.
And also banks, we found were a good place because they're very reliable hours. No one's going to show up until like 8:30, 8:45 in the morning,
never heard that.
and they're going to be gone. And it closes at 5. Probably the last person's out by like 5:36. So as long as we're there after and leave before, we can rely on nobody showing up.
Fascinating.
Where else? Rest stops. Rest stops are good too. Some rest stops, they actually have a person on watch all night because they want people to feel safe as they're staying over. Most don't, just a few. There's actually, if you Google, there's whole networks of websites where people post all the locations in the whole country where they allow people to sleep for free.
Wow, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, a lot of casinos do. It's something they allow.
Do you know some of those websites offhand, or?
No. I mean, we used it a lot at the time, and
It's 10
you
years
can
ago.
just forget it. It's
Right,
like old information. Yeah.
But easily enough found, I'm sure, with a quick Google search.
And we're jumping around, but my wife and I, we did a lot of cool stuff, and we're both very adventurous for one, but what allowed those opportunities was clearly like we didn't have the debt, right? It's like, I mean, if you're graduating with a certain amount of debt, it's the responsible thing to do. It's the thing I think you should do, is to prioritize paying that off first.
Right.
And
so you mentioned, you were able to finish without debt. That is very liberating because all of a sudden you're not in that position of being, forced to have to go get a job that's stable and secure because you have the burden of all these bills that need to be paid. So the freedom that comes from that allows you to live a very unconventional life if you chose to. You can do the travel that you've always dreamed of, however you dreamed of it. But my next question to that is, you mentioned also, you didn't have a whole lot of money, but you saved up for these adventures that you wanted to go on. How did you do that? Did you hold like small jobs in the interim? Did you, how did you build what you needed to make those 3-month trips? Because even if you didn't have a lot of debt, that still requires a decent amount of savings in order to carry you through 3 months on the road, buying food and fuel and so forth.
Well, there's the things we did, and then there's like the things that we were just very fortunate to have available for us, right? And those are the things we had available definitely make the biggest difference. So we had the opportunity to live with my parents, right? That was a huge thing. They were very generous that during those early years of, while I was in college, my wife came from Korea, and, we were living together, and we were living with my parents the whole time. And I was taking classes. At the time, she was studying English at first. And we didn't have any rent or anything like that. And so we were able to save a lot of the expenses that you'd normally have as a young adult. And then even after graduating college, my parents allowed us to keep living. They did expect some payment, but it was like pennies, right? It's like just the principle of it, just like a young graduate college, and so expecting to start to take care of themselves, especially married, right? For us to provide for ourselves. Graduating college, the first thing that was another thing I didn't take such advantage of, like internships and things and making connections with, and because I had an idea what I wanted to do after college. I wanted to do something entrepreneurial, right? And so I was just focused on developing that, and then everything else was, in the meantime, was interim, right? And so I didn't really network in university and develop business relationships. And so I graduated college, and I was still trying to like find my footing and figure out what to do. And in the meantime, another opportunity was just available to me, right? Like my parents have a small business. They have a retail flower shop, and so they let me work. I mean, I grew up working there, actually, right? So I mean, I already knew like the whole business inside out, and so I began working there, and it was, I was making like, I started out making, as graduate college, right? And I was making maybe $10 an hour, and then I got bumped up to $12 an hour. It's just like really, really low pay. And but that was okay for me because I was living at home at low expenses,
Right.
and that gave me a lot of time to pursue the things I wanted to do. So I was writing books on the side for
Wow.
Kindle, and for a couple of years we did that, and it was good. It was just really nice for the arrangement that we were able to make. And so we're all living together, and we would cycle through. My parents and my wife and I would be all together, and we'd be living under the same roof and working together, and it'd be nice. And then my parents, and then my wife and I, we would go off for a couple months and have some experience with the money that we'd saved. And then we'd come back, and it would be nice to see each other again. It's a good break because you can start to kind of get on each other's nerves if you're too long, right? So we'd be happy to be together again. And then my parents would actually then take an opportunity to go travel. And I was perfectly capable of handling the entire business, right? I could do all the purchasing and knew how to do everything.
Wow,
and
that's fantastic. So you could allow them a break to, travel and explore the world
And you
as
run
well.
the business.
Right. Yeah. And they liked it, right? They were able to they're both immigrants. So they took time to visit their families, both their families back home in Japan, and go to Wales. And then they'd come back and we'd have a nice time together. And we'd repeat that. And we did that for a few years. And
can we dive into the Kindle books? Because I feel like that's kind of really fascinating. I mean, I think you're still collecting dividends from those books you wrote eight years ago or whatever it was. Can you just talk about that a little more? Like, how hard is it to actually write a book, and what were the subjects of these books? And go for it, author Sammy Uyama.
So I guess the short answer is extremely easy. That's what it's like to write a book. So if you have any writing potential, it's a good opportunity. I don't know about now, actually. I do suspect it's changed a lot since when I started. And so I was just looking at what business opportunities would there be, right? And it's something I stumbled on, and the more I researched it, it really changed my concept of what it meant to write a book. My idea of writing a book was like you had like this masterpiece that you would have to. That was like the one book that would be a bestseller and do extremely well and make you a lot of money. But then there's people that were approaching it in a very different way, where they were much less ambitious with each one, and then they focused on quantity. And so what's a book that I can write that could bring me in up to like $200, $300, $400, $500 a month, right? And if I'd write 10 of those, then you'd have a $5,000 monthly income, residual monthly income. That's very, very healthy. Right? Or if less ambitious, you had 20 books that were $250 a month, it's like that. And it was this random book I bought. It was called How to Write a Ebook in 21 Days, right? And it was a spontaneous purchase, right? And it was on sale for like 99 cents. That's how they get you, right? And so I read it and I just followed the directions. I was like, okay, step 1, do this. Step 2, do this. And walks through it. I don't think that's the best book available anymore. This was 2014, right? So just at the time is like what I found. And I just went through the whole brainstorming process, what something I could write about. And so the very first one, my whole university career and after, I was very obsessed with routines and how to end the day and how to start the day. And so that was something, this brainstorming process, like, all right, what's something I feel I have some authority in? And I feel I have some authority in how to wake up really well in the morning. And it's something that was not natural for me. Like some, people have their different sleep cycles. They naturally like to wake up earlier. I wanted the benefits of waking up early, but I was absolutely not like a natural morning person. And so something I did a lot of just honing and trying to read a lot of advice and how to do that. And I came up with a really good process. And so I just laid that out for people, how to end the day well and how to begin the day well, that kind of naturally train yourself to. So the title of the book is How to Love Waking Up. And, develop the mindset of like, I'm actually enjoying the waking up process.
Maybe I need to read that. I don't like waking up.
I hear you've gained some notoriety in this field. I heard you were recognized, or someone was talking about you to your brother or something about the.
Yeah. So that I started that in 2014. Wait. No, 2015. Yeah. It's 2015, and the whole book writing process was probably like, maybe 2 months. I took my time with it. It was just a couple hours a day. I think maybe the entire project was maybe 50 hours.
Okay.
Something around that. Maybe 60 hours, and
Wow.
everything from like all the researching and writing and how to make a book cover and how to do marketing.
Wow.
And it did really well, and then it did well, and then I wrote a second one very slowly a year later, and the book sales that I got from that was very meager. You know, I was making like $300-400 a month with it.
That's still impressive from
and
one book.
Yeah, from the one book, and
Wow.
that summer after it published.
And you're only selling on Amazon?
Yeah, just Amazon. But a few months after that published is when my wife and I went on our trip to India and Nepal, and we discovered very quickly like $400 goes very, very far, right? So we're actually, you know, we'd saved the money we need, but even just the book income, it was enough for us to sustain a lifestyle.
Wow.
While we're traveling, and so we felt very safe and comfortable to travel around, and there's all the what ifs. You know, what if something happens? We run out of money, and so we were able to kind of set those aside and just enjoy, you know, the experience of traveling around. And we did in India. We just really went where the wind brought us. And
Wow.
it started out where I'd one college friend, good college friend, who's originally from India, and we were originally going to go to Nepal, and it's published on Facebook. He's like, "Oh, you're coming to Nepal? You have to come to India. You'll stay." You know, so okay, yeah, sure. And so we originally, that was our landing pad, was my friend's house, and we just did a bunch of random stuff. It's like we went to this one city they recommended, and while we were there, we met some really nice people, and they invited us to a completely different part of the country and to stay with them. So then we went there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
And,
I didn't even know this side of your
I didn't
story.
know this either.
I'm captivated.
Yeah, it's nice to reflect on it, because you know, it's not, we don't really talk about it much. It's nice to bring up those memories. So I appreciate it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's
your question was
fascinating
about book writing. Is there anything else?
Well, I'm curious, like, are you just like typing this out on Microsoft Word and then like printing it as a PDF and uploading it to Kindle on Amazon? Can you walk?
I use Google Docs. Not even like Microsoft Word is for the connoisseurs, right? But I just use Google Docs, and because I got a lot of feedback on it, so that's really helpful for you know, sharing with a lot of people. And Kindle has, you know, they created their own documents, right? So it's like Kindle has their own the guidelines for like how to upload an ebook. So you just follow the directions. It can be a little technical. So it did take a while to do the formatting correctly. But it's one of those things that it's straightforward. So I guess simple, as long as you're just willing to follow the directions. It just takes time, and there's a lot of details, right? So like Kindle, there's all these things you never really consider. Like a book has finite pages and words per page, but Kindle, it changes based on the font size, right? So if you want to include an image and you want it to be associated to specific text, then like these breaks and things that you have to do, and also like if you want a new chapter to begin on a new page, there's certain things you need to do. Otherwise, it just flow all together. And some people, they just like are really raw about it. They just like type and publish, right? And they're really focused on the quantity, but I do like to create quality things. And so I took the time to be really detailed about it.
Is it a process where someone has to review and approve the text that you've written, or is it more like self-publishing where you create this work and then you just get it out there?
Oh yeah, right. Good question. I mean, so that's the whole revolution of the publishing space, is that for centuries, or however long the printing press has existed, I don't know, but there was like these gatekeepers to book writing. It's like someone had to approve your book and think it would be worthy of printing and putting out. But then like mostly Amazon. I mean, there are other online book publishers, but they're the ones really driving it. Is the whole self-publishing industry? It's self-regulated, and it's like the marketplace that decides whether your book is any good or not. And
interesting.
I mean, people, there's like marketing tricks you can do, and you can trick people to buying your book, but I mean, it's not sustainable. You can just do it one time. And
right.
For the long haul, the only way to be successful is actually write good content.
Mm-hmm.
And the market decides that. It's not like some random person. Right. So I really like that a lot. And that really kind of spoke to my nature. I'm very non-authoritarian, I guess. Like my wife and I would just like, I don't know if you can tell, but like we just think about things differently, right? And do what we just like. We want to do what we want to do, kind of people.
Right.
And it's like even so. I wrote the first one 2015, the second one 2016, and at the very end of 2016, my wife and I just moved to Korea. It was beginning of 2016 is what we decided to do that, and then we spent the next 5-6 months preparing for that process.
Mm-hmm.
And after moving to Korea, I've not touched any of my Kindle books. I took a completely different career turn.
Mm-hmm.
And that was originally my game plan for creating passive residual income. But anyways, went on completely different road, but those books continued to sell. So after 4 years of absolutely zero marketing, which is actually very important for the Kindle world,
mm-hmm.
They're still bringing about $100 a month. It's very, for the both of them combined, very meager, but I'm happy with it for something that and it would be more if I just took 10 minutes a month to do a few marketing efforts, but I'll just leave it as it is.
That's fantastic. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I never really thought of online book publishing as a form of passive income stream, but there's so much potential there, as you've already demonstrated here. And how if you have a good idea, you have a thought you want to write about, you're inspired by something, why not consider that as a possible form of pursuing passive income? I think that's a fantastic idea.
Right.
Yeah. Just some caveats I want to add to the publishing. And I think in the past 4 years, so I've not even looked at it for 4 years, and I think it's changed a lot, even just from like my impression of it. A lot of people have caught, because it's such a great opportunity, a lot of people have caught on. So, when that thing happens, you get a lot of the gurus, right? And experts that want to teach you how to do it. And then a lot of it becomes a means to an end. It's like, I actually really cared about the book writing process.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they continue to sell, is I really put my heart in those books. But for a lot of people, it's just, they don't really, they just want to create a book, right? For whatever reason, just to be a guest speaker, right? To make money, right? It's like, to say you're an author, then that helps you get speaking gigs, right? If it was one example. And then the market catches on, right? So people kind of become savvy to the fact that there's a lot of kind of poor quality content out there. And also it's very different. I wrote nonfiction, which is completely different animal than fiction, right? So a lot of people, writing's a passion. They like to create stories. And I know absolutely nothing about that. Right. Yeah. Zero. It's very different.
A very different world. This is the nonfiction world where research can carry you through.
Yeah. And so things like you can get by without any reputation and just a good title and good, clear content. But like How to Love Waking Up, it's very specific. And if people are interested in that topic, they know what to expect from the book. Right. Like fiction, you have to do a lot to convince someone that your story is worth reading.
Valid point.
Yeah. So Sammy, we have a lot of different directions we can go here, but I do want to touch on, the most recent passion, I feel like, in terms of your work life, is High Noon. And we haven't even talked about what High Noon is, but do you want to share what High Noon is, how you got involved with it? And it's something I've supported these last couple of years too. But you're pretty much running the show there, right? I feel like day-to-day operations, at least. If you can just share something about High Noon.
Yeah, so High Noon is a nonprofit organization that's focused on educating people about sexuality, and specifically addressing the topic of pornography. And there's this one couple near Seattle Washington area, Westport, very successful crab business and really a wonderful marriage. This couple has been married for decades, going on 4 decades soon.
Wow.
And blessed in the relationship and blessed financially. And they really wanted to do something to support other families and especially in the area of marriage. That was the most important area for them. And they wanted to provide marriage enrichment for other people. And so it started with that. And then they started with it was like a really nice weekend workshop experience, which you two, I know, have participated in. And, they wanted to make something that was very high level, but very accessible to a lot of people that don't really have the opportunity to invest financially in that quality of an experience. So, the whole 9 yards, like the room for your couple with the chocolate on the pillows, right? And the gift bags. And it was still an ongoing, very, very wonderful program. And through doing that kind of work, they started to, and they had a whole team that they're working together with, and they started to see what are the issues of the reality of marriages and what people actually struggle with in their couple. And one particular one that kept recurring again and again was this topic of pornography. Is that something that a lot of people struggle with, but just like never talked about, right? And it's a huge impact in people's lives. And so they're like, wow, we really need to, we really care about marriages. And this is like one of the biggest hindrances to creating a good relationship in a couple. And so they wanted to do something to address that specifically. And so it brought them down this whole rabbit hole of the pornography industry. And then from there, looking at, what is sex and what does sex mean? And right. And like, why is, to answer the question, why is pornography harmful? You have to look at, what is it impacting, right? And what is it taking away from what's the potential of a sexual relationship that's there that's not available anymore when you're distracted by porn. So that's the work of High Noon. And my involvement it was actually Suncook is through you that I was originally introduced to this whole organization. So. Yeah. So the story of that is like, this topic happens also to be one that I was very keen on and passionate about. Because in my youth, my middle and high school years, I watched a ton of porn, and I went through different phases of like being really affected by it and really like hating myself, to making a lot of effort to convince myself there wasn't a big deal, and then everybody did it and it wasn't really harming me, and making a lot of effort to try to quit and then failing. And it was finally after years, something that had made a lot of stop and goes, and I was able to get a handle of my life, and it completely cut out porn and masturbation from my life entirely. And I saw that process and how much it allowed me to grow and develop. And soon after that, getting married, and what kind of foundation that was for my relationship with my wife, it was very clear like this is a really important people for young guys as a man, right? It's this kind of perspective I was looking at, like for guys who want to really be a good spouse is like a really important area. And so once in a while I would talk to people who want to get married one day, and like, how can I prepare? And this is always something that I would mention, because it was never something that was brought up, right? And so I made a special emphasis to say, how are you doing in this area? And they would, oh yeah, it's hard, and struggling. And I knew I wanted to bring it up and I wanted to do something about it, but I felt totally ill-equipped to help people in that area. So I would, I'd ask the question, and then I'd immediately try to distance myself as soon as possible. Like, yeah, you should do something about that. Good luck with it, right? Right. And then as I was doing this for years, right? It wasn't like it was a slow, just a background part of my life. It wasn't like an immediate thing. And one day this guy approached me, and he's like, hey, I'm struggling with this area, and can you help me quit? And, I was very actively positioning myself to not be the person to help people quit. Right. So I was still trying to get out of it as much as I can. And no, maybe you're thinking of, he said like, hey, I heard you're the guy to go to, right. And which is, I very much not wanting to be the guy. It's like, no, why don't you try this person, that person. He's like, no, I know you. If you could help me, I'd really appreciate it. And so I actually agreed to do it. And then I was, as soon as I said yes, then I was thinking the process was like, okay, like, so what's step one? What do you do? And I had no idea. I was like, I had this process I went through, but I was insane. I did a lot of crazy stuff that people are just not going to be willing to do. You know, like I cut myself off from the internet for like 2 years, every social media, YouTube, you know, I was like a hermit. Right.
Wow.
And I was just doing random stuff, is, you know, that throw stuff at the wall, see what sticks. You know, I was doing cold water only for like an entire year. Like, that was
Cold
just like
showers.
my rule. Not just cold showers. I mean, it was like cold water only. I didn't touch warm water. So doing the dishes, cold water.
Oh, wow.
Wash my hands, cold water. Shower, cold water. Right.
Wow. Interesting.
Did that for a whole year. And,
what else did you do?
meditation.
I've never heard this.
I did meditation.
Okay.
I got really into the stuff I was interested in, like sports. So I was playing a ton of sports, random hobbies. I wanted to learn piano, so I tried learning piano. And spirituality, like I was like reading scripture stuff and trying to create some kind of relationship with God. And I was actually working on my relationship with my parents. That was something that helped a lot too, was having like open dialogue and communication with them and create like really wholesome relationships. And that made such a big difference for me, like having that connection. And that filled a hole that I think a lot of people, they subconsciously they're looking for through things like porn. And so anyway, I wanted to help this guy, and I was like Googling how to help someone quit porn, right? And this Andrew Love, right? He's my
co-host.
Coworker. Yeah, that's what I meant. He's my coworker at High Noon, right? And so he was someone I knew, and he was working with this organization, and I knew he was posting stuff online. And so I eventually got the idea, okay, I'll check out what Andrew's doing. And I was going through, they had a Facebook page, and he'd done some random interviews with people. And one was with Sunkook, with you. He'd interviewed you about your experience quitting porn. And, you know, we were friends prior to that, and I had no idea that part of you. It was like really exciting. It was like, oh wow, it was like this area that I worked a lot on, I really cared about. And Sunkook, he did the exact same thing, which is very rare. You know, it's like, how many young guys actually like worked on their porn habit in that way, right?
Unfortunately rare.
And so I just sent you a message like, hey, I saw your interview. It was really cool. Right. And then you contacted me and were like, oh yeah, thanks. Oh, by the way, the Andrew and this couple that I mentioned that started this whole thing, the Wolfenbergers, they're starting a mentor training program. And they want to train people to be mentors, to help people quit porn. And like my jaw dropped. I was like, what? That is exactly what I'm looking for. Right?
A serendipitous moment.
Yeah. So I was so excited. I was like, yeah, of course. Yeah, hook me up. And so David Wolfenberger, you gave him my phone number, and he called me like hours later, immediately. Right? And I'd never heard of the guy or talked to the guy at all up until that point. And then his first question was, was like, hey, why are you interested in being a mentor? What's your experience with porn? And we just went right into it. Like, I gave him my whole, which, it's really unusual to talk about your porn use with somebody, right? It's such a personal part of your life. And so at the time I was a little like thrown off by the whole thing, but I kind of got very comfortable. I could tell that he just really wanted to listen. And so I just shared my heart out about like basically what I shared with you guys, kind of this whole process and where I was at now. I had this guy I was trying to help, and I was very interested in just knowing how to support him. And so I took the mentor training, and I just fell in love with the organization. And ironically, this guy that was supposed to help, he ghosted on me. And, we went a couple weeks, and then I never heard from him again. And so he's a huge catalyst, right, to where I'm at right now. So I credit him that, but it was just some little irony. I just fell in love with what this organization represented. It's called High Noon, and the message behind that is, conducting ourselves in our relationships and living a life without shadows. That's the idea. When the sun is like straight above you, it doesn't cast a shadow anywhere, and that's just something to aspire to live our lives. And as a volunteer, as a mentor inside the organization, I absolutely saw that amongst the staff. It wasn't just in the area of sex, but in everything. first and foremost was about honesty, right? About communication, about expressing ourselves honestly, and also the grace to receive and to create dialogue. And Uncle David and his wife Aunt Mitsue, their highest commitment is to model everything that they want to preach about, is to model first in their lives, and just incredible leadership. And I just fell in love with it all. And so I just looked for I was volunteering at first, and I just looked for every opportunity to get more involved. And so they said, hey, they had this mentor training, and they wanted to create some kind of some structure, some ongoing mentor support, right? And so they asked if I wanted to be involved with creating that process. And yes, right? If they asked me anything, I was going to say yes to it, right? And they wanted to create their own like recovery curriculum. And so they asked if I wanted to try writing stuff, because they'd heard I'd actually had experience with book writing. So I said yes. And then my secret goal, I didn't tell anybody this in the organization, but like I was so in love with their work and the way they conducted themselves and did everything, that they had only 2 employees at the time, and I knew at some point they wanted to grow, and whenever the time came they wanted to hire someone, I wanted them to first think of me. I wanted to be the first person they thought of when they're ready to hire someone. And I had no expectations for how long that would take. I thought it'd probably be a couple of years, right? They're kind of still getting their footing. And it was just like, I'd been volunteering for 6 months when the call came, and Uncle David, he was like, hey, he's very like subtle about it. Hey, what's your career plans? What are you thinking? Right. And I was very clear at that point already. So I said I was able to say very clearly, like, hey, this is what I'm doing now. I was living in Korea at the time. My life is a mess. We're just jumping all over the place. Right. And I said, yeah, I really want to work for High Noon. If there's an opportunity, that's absolutely like what I want to do. And he was very excited about that. And so we figured out an arrangement, and I started. That was, that was like summer 2017. So my wife and I moved to Korea like December 2016, and it was around the exact same time that I first we had that conversation. I got connected with High Noon, and I started volunteering, and like June or July or whatever, I had been onboarded as staff.
Right.
And haven't looked back since. And so I stopped book writing because of that. It's like, this is the thing that I want to throw all of my energy into. So any creative juices I have, this is where it goes. And otherwise, I'm just doing something relaxing, spending time with my family.
So you're helping to build, in a way, this organization. It was like a startup organization, and now you're involved in it too, and you're building it. And, when you look back at your life story, where you've been, all your life experiences, all the things you chose to study and personally work on building in yourself, like your business background, your entrepreneurial side, your book writing side and researching side, your personal development in terms of personal integrity and working on becoming the best version of yourself that you can be for the sake of building a better relationship and marriage, kind of all this background,
The
culminating in this passion project that you're now involved in and helping to spearhead to the High Noon Project, which is, built upon a topic that is, so
taboo.
Much of a taboo topic. It's something that not a lot of people want to discuss or go around, and yet it's the elephant in the room that is really at the heart of what's destroying valuable relationships and marriages and possible happiness for people in modern day society, with the advent of the internet age and a lot of different problems that are going on. It's a topic that's not being talked about and is affecting long-term marriage happiness and stability, and you're tackling this on head first. And I think that it's an incredible journey and an incredible story that you just shared.
Wow. Yeah.
And now you've had like hundreds come through like the High Noon program, right? Maybe even thousands, and you've spoken in like at least 18 countries, right? You were taking your daughter around on a speaking tour with High Noon, right?
Yeah. Um, yeah, all I can say is this. Blessed is the only word. I know a lot of people say that, right? Yeah, we have a really lucky life. And I've been talking about me. I haven't really talked about my marriage at all, right? But my wife and I and our family, it's just serendipity is a good word, or guidance, or like you said, all these things that somehow tie together.
Mm-hmm.
We feel very lucky, and um, I got a vocation that I care about a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That allows me to take care of my family, that I love to do, and helps a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, that's really all a lot of people really want, right?
I feel like that's the definition of ikigai, right?
Yeah.
Where you
reason for being.
Reason for being. You find your purpose, your passion, how it can help the world, and also make money to help your family and economy and so forth. And then you get a sense of fulfillment from that.
Yeah. It's just especially in an area that's so central to people's lives, right? It's like sex, right? And our main mission is like good sex, creating more good sex in the world. And there's a lot involved with that, of allowing there's individual work that needs to be done, there's work that needs to be done in the couple. Mm-hmm. And then along with that is just all the stuff that you needed to dig through first, all the baggage, like porn. There's a lot of concepts about sex, a lot of wounds, even trauma that people experience in this area. Mm-hmm. But the end result is so rewarding. And if people can get this area right, then it can pull them through every other part of their life. It's like in a marriage, when your marriage is good, and then it can get you can pull through anything, right? But if everything else is good, but your marriage is not, then it feels empty.
Yeah, I completely wholeheartedly agree. And part of the reason I was so excited to have you, Sammy, and the mission that you're working on and everything there. I mean, honestly, this is a topic that we can definitely dedicate an episode on, and I definitely want to in the future. But for now, I definitely want to just recommend everyone check out, Sammy is a podcast host talking about this exact subject called Love, Life, and Legacy, right? I said that right, Sammy? Mm-hmm. And so check that out. I think they have like 30 some episodes at this point. And just something that I really feel like more people have to dedicate their attention to, just removing that part of you. Because like you said, like once you can get rid of that, and once you can focus on creating this marriage, on a foundation of honesty, trust, and honest communication, I feel like so much things get smoother, so much more happiness, so much more possibilities are open to you. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So
and other stuff I like. We both have the mutual interest of financial independence.
Yep.
So I mean, everything you've already. I have nothing to say. You've already covered that topic immensely on your podcast, but it's something I personally am really into as well, and I like a lot. I like sports. We also have that in common. I recently really got into strength training, like with barbells.
I know.
That's a whole. I like it a lot. I can recommend it wholly. I think it's something that there's a lot of things of it that I never considered, like the way it supports your ligaments, your joints, and your bones, especially as you get older. The parts of you that wear out as you age, just having strength and having good muscle really helps prevent that.
I love how
my
you
wife and I
tackle
last
these different
summer,
subjects and you just go into them wholeheartedly, and you really cultivate an understanding and appreciation for them. It's a character trait of, not a lot of people have that drive to go and explore
driving
things.
Commitment too.
Right,
I feel like that commitment's really strong with you,
which is very inspiring.
If I have like a unique twist, so many smart people, accomplished people have so much great advice. The only thing I could offer to people is that just the knowledge that there's so much available, so much information available, and you just have to be willing to read or to listen or watch, right? And if you take the time, then you can learn from other people's experience. And anything you can think of, any problem, someone has already dealt with it, figured it out, wrote a blog post about it, made a YouTube video about it. And just so taking the time to learn from other people's experience And that's just what's guided, I guess, me my whole life that I got from my mom, is that attitude of seeing what's available and learning from it.
Right. Yeah, playing audiobooks in the car. I think that's so awesome. It's something we're doing with our kids, and I think it's going to lead them towards a path of knowing exactly where to gain knowledge and just pursue and get whatever they want, accomplish it, figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sam, before we let you go, we're going kind of long here, but I do want to touch on two more topics. I think everyone's curious how you were able to travel to 18 different countries with a 4-month-old, and how that kind of looked like and how that worked. I don't know. We might have to split this into two podcast episodes.
Well, no, that doesn't have to be too long. I think it's really simple. You need a lot less clothes than you think you need.
Yeah.
That's the answer. We had, with a baby, between my wife and I, we had one carry-on size suitcase.
Wow.
A backpack and a baby bag.
Wow.
Right. And
ultimate minimalists.
How many pants did you have?
I had, oh gosh, I don't remember. I should have wrote this down. I had one long pair of nice pants for when I need to look nice, and then I think I had 2 basketball shorts. That's what I wore the whole time. Or maybe 2 basketball shorts and then one decent looking khaki kind of things, or maybe 1 basketball short. And I know I had 3 pairs of underwear, and I had 2 pairs of socks.
Wow.
Right?
And were you washing like every day, or?
Yeah, a lot of washing. So fun fact is, amongst the 3 of us, our baby had the most stuff.
Right.
Like, I believe that.
Her diapers and like her blankets and everything she needed, and like the stuff my wife needed to breastfeed. So that was one thing allowed us to be really minimal. It was breastfeeding. So it's like you're bringing the baby's food around with you everywhere anyway.
Yeah.
And it was also summer. You just need a lot less clothes. Summer clothes are much less bulky than winter clothes.
Yeah.
We did bring one really lightweight, like a spring or a fall down jacket, something we got at Uniqlo. And just the materials. We shopped very specifically for that trip. Or there's that underwear brand. They have like the Give and Go underwear.
Exfolio or something?
Exfolio, that's it. Exactly. That's it. So I had 3 pairs of that. And I would just hand wash them in the sand, and we had wool socks. So we just got the stuff that's good for traveling. If you just, again, there's nothing we figured out. It was just, we Googled, right? And we just took other people's advice.
Yeah. Definitely wool is a good travel item. We had that on our trip to Europe with our 6-month-old as well, wool clothing.
Had the mindset of just being willing to take less than we might need. Like everyone's attitude is like, oh, I need to pack for just in case, right?
Prepare,
But we knew it's like, every country you can get the same stuff that you need, right? So we focused on what do we definitely need and what do we need now, and then everything else we knew we'd have the opportunity to get if we really needed it.
And now that you have 2 babies, would you do it again?
Oh man, So what I've learned, we have like a,
because we did something similar, right? When ours was 6 months old, and I feel like what you said about nursing really helped the whole thing. But once you have an older one who needs to eat with food, and it gets complicated. Yeah.
So we definitely haven't given up on it. It'd have to be very different. A couple things. So we have like 46-day-old newborn.
Wow,
and
congrats.
Some things I've already learned. Thank you. Yeah, a girl and a boy. And so some things I've learned is that 2 kids is like 10 times the work as 1 kid, right? And also kids become more work as they get older. That 4 to 6 month, or around up to like a year, that's like the sweet spot.
Yeah.
They're not moving, so they're happy just to
tag along,
stay in your lap. No, they're happy just to be in your lap on the airplane. But like our 23-month-old, I can't imagine her sitting still for 5 hours on an airplane ride anymore. Yeah. Plus, she has her own food needs. And, once they start to get picky, it's like actually can be really stressful trying to figure out what to feed them. Plus just all the extra stuff that you need with 2 kids versus 1.
Yeah.
But we haven't given up. We just think that it's probably something like a more road trippy kind of thing. Just something that would allow us. Yeah, we can make stops, allow us the flexibility and schedule, and would allow us to accommodate just the stuff that we'll need.
Right. Yeah. Quick tip for those who are traveling with a mobile toddler. one of the best things we found was to go to the dollar store right before the trip and buy a whole bunch of little toys, things that aren't really, meaningful necessarily. You can drop them off at your locations if they begin to weigh you down too much. But on the flights, if you have like a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hour flight, you can pull out a new toy every hour. And then it's a whole new refreshment for the child to occupy them for at least 30 minutes with, oh, here's a new car I can play with. Oh, here's a new little puzzle I can do, and it does help pass the time.
Yeah. And back to just knowing what resources are available. I've mentioned Google, but also I have the good fortune to just have a really rewarding network of acquaintances and friends and just people who have done things I'm interested in. Exactly. So I know you guys are available who've done already that kind of stuff, even exactly what you said to these little hacks and these tricks. You've traveled with kids who are in my children's age range already. And so I can ask you, what are the pitfalls, what worked really well. And so like having those relationships is really rewarding and really valuable.
Yeah, and there's a lot of online forums and networks of people who have common interests like that. As you said, if you want to reach out and learn more about something you're considering doing in your life, find those connections as people you can ask questions.
Yeah. Okay, Sammy, last question. We do have to finish up here. You started Roth IRAs for your kids?
Yeah, I did. Well, yep. Is that just a yes or no question, or do you want me to expound on that?
23-month-old. How does she have a Roth IRA?
All right. So the tricky thing living in Korea is that you can only apply so to open a Roth IRA, you have to have a social security number. And you can only apply for a social security number in the United States or specific U.S. embassies. And Korea is not one of those embassies. The closest one would be Manila, Philippines.
Oh, wow.
And so we actually had to wait until we tried to go to America annually. And so we just waited until one of the trips we were in America, and then just brought all the stuff I needed and just applied for locally. And so we haven't opened up one for a second child yet because he doesn't have a social security number yet. And so the way we fund that is, you have to have income, working income. And again, this is not something we brilliantly figured out. It's just what I know other people have done. My wife, one of her hobbies is she has a YouTube channel, a budding YouTube channel. She's like 81 subscribers, like nothing grand at all. And so that's like kind of we're using it as like we're treating it as like a startup venture for her, right? So she keeps paperwork on the expenses, and so we include that when we're filing taxes every year. And then we treat that as a potential income producing venture at some point. And we don't have high expectations in any way, right? But it has the potential, right? And so it's about our family. And so we pay our daughter, right? We compensate her for being a part of our YouTube channel. And so like modeling would be the term. And so that's what a lot of people do. It's very simple. You don't have to like have a big business that has a lot of income, just especially with infants, that's the default one is modeling. So if you have a blog or something, you can, it has to be fair compensation. You can't just be outrageous about it, but the IRA limits is really reasonable for an annual rate for someone to do modeling consistently throughout the 6,000, 60. Okay. Yeah. So, $500 a month. If you're posting once a week, so, $100 per gig, it's very, very reasonable. And so, that's just how we did it. It's very straightforward.
That's if you want to max it out. You don't have to max it out.
No, we don't. We don't max it out. For us, it's like $100 a month. That's what we're doing.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, no, that's really cool. Yeah, and for those that don't know, Roth IRAs are just so cool because she's 1 year old when that started. When she's 60 and ready to like start withdrawing some of those retirement accounts, at the historic average 8% increase, over 60 years, that money, whatever's in there, should grow 100 times, and that's tax-free. So tax-free withdrawals on 100 times whatever you put in at that young age, which is just incredible.
Yeah, and I know you've done a whole episode on this specifically, so I won't really go into it. But just, I guess, if this is the only episode you guys are listening to, just so you know, The reason I personally like the Roth IRA more than like a 529 is just the flexibility it allows. The 529 can only be used for university, college, or education, or some vocational school, something like that, right? The contributions you make to a Roth IRA can be withdrawn at any time. So it does add a lot of flexibility for the child when they become 18, 19, 20, and they want, just like as parents, we want to provide them some opportunity to do something, right? So by that point, in just flat contributions, not including the interest earned, it'll be like 20,000 or whatever. And that's really good, decent money to attempt to start a business, to do a around the world trip, to get them started in university, but not quite enough to fully pay for it. And so they don't, they do have to find, if they really want to go to college, to find how to fund it. And we're really happy with that. So we're hoping that she'll value the compounding effect of it and want to keep it all in. And like you said, take advantage of that buffer. Like when she gets older, basically she'll never have to save for her retirement. She'll be able to use that in the present. And, and if she wants to have a cushy retirement, she can contribute to that. But it's already taken care of, and it will allow her to, and hopefully based on the way we raise them, that, she'll want to like invest that into other people and to use it to give back. But just the flexibility, like, so, we're hoping she makes some choices, but if some opportunity comes along, then she has that available to take advantage of that. So that's why we like it a lot.
Right.
So Sammy, in finishing up, I just want to ask you, like, when you meet a young couple or someone just starting out, what kind of advice do you like to give them for, a young couple just starting out?
Don't do whatever you can to avoid debt. If you have debt, pay it off as quickly as you can, and do wild things. It's like you feel like you're busy and you've got obligations. You have no idea how much that multiplies once you have kids. It's like, as much traveling as my wife and I did, we wish that we had done more before we had children. And I mean, we were actually very fortunate. This is really, I actually didn't touch on this, but very personal catalyst for why we did as much traveling as we did. The whole Nepal and India trip, the reason that happened was because in 2015, my wife became pregnant and had a miscarriage. And so we went through this phase where we were expecting to be parents and settle down. And then suddenly it was very sad, right? And it was very challenging. But then after that, when we were looking at what the silver lining would be, we realized how available we were. We had nothing tying us down. It's like, this is like a new opportunity. So let's just take full advantage of it. And so we did this amazing trip. We did trekking to the Appalachian not the Appalachian, the Himalayan mountains.
Wow.
And such a great memory. So yeah, like if you have the opportunity to prioritize that, even if it doesn't have to be internationally, almost like I like those international trips, but we love just traveling around the United States as well.
Right.
There's so much beautiful places to visit in America and interesting people to talk to. And, we got a gas range grill, and we would buy raw ground beef from Walmart and then just cook it on a gas grill in the parking lot on the floor. We ate on the floor in the parking lot, right? With some stir-fried vegetables and a frying pan that we brought with us. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, awesome.
And really prioritize your relationship. This is a couple we're talking about. Prioritize your relationship. That's something my wife and I did, is that we really invested in spending time together, getting to know each other, communicating with each other. And, we put a lot of hours in, that 10,000 rule you've heard. I mean, we've put more than 10,000 hours into our relationship at this point of quality time together. I think that's enough to get started. Yeah.
Sammy, thanks so much. When people hear your story, you've shared a lot of your life with us. What do you hope people kind of get inspired about?
I just hope if this idiot could figure it out, and maybe we can do, if anything, that, broaden your horizons. I hope that people can be inspired by that. If I were to have I mentioned my one looking back regret about not taking advantage of the opportunity at university. I also wish that I'd taken more opportunity to see what vocations, what interests I had. I was very set early on as business. I want to study business. And I did like it, but in hindsight, I realized I really like a lot of technical stuff. I think I really would have enjoyed engineering. It's like I have had no exposure to physics or the hard sciences in any way. Because I was always focused on business, so I just focused on whatever I needed for that, and I avoided all that other stuff. But I think I really would have enjoyed it, or even like graphic design stuff. I think I really would have enjoyed that too. And there's these things that I have the opportunity to explore now, and I wish I'd done that earlier. It's like the opportunity cost of learning something like Photoshop or Premiere is much higher when you're older, right? And so when you're young, just to like be eclectic and try to collect as many skills as you can, and see what just try new things, what you're really interested in, and just try to have exposure to different perspectives and lifestyles. That was one thing I did. I was very fortunate on just coming from a multicultural family, being very familiar with Japanese culture, with British culture, American culture, working. One of our family friends, they have a sprinkler installation company. So one summer I had the opportunity to work a construction site and, figure out what kind of people, that crowd, right? And then through my parents' small business, kind of seeing behind the scenes of what a mom and pop business, how it runs, and dealing with vendors. I hope that can be exciting for people.
Yeah. Sammy, thank you so much for coming on the FamVestor podcast. People hear your story, want to learn more about you. What's the best way that they can get in contact with you?
I am the literally only Sammy Uyama on the entirety of Facebook. So very easy to find. You can message me there. And if I really encourage you to, if you want to message me to say something like, if you have a question, ask a question. If you say, hey, I have a question, probably not going to respond, right? So just go ahead and message me whatever it is you want to say, and I'll read it all. But if someone just like, hey, or hey, I have a question, I don't bother with that, right? So,
hey, is this available? Sammy, thank you so much. Thanks for sharing your time with us.
Yeah, what a
We really
fantastic
appreciate it.
story. Very inspiring and really eye-opening to the limitless potential a person can have in their life. If they choose to make the most of their time and really invest full-heartedly in whatever they're pursuing. I feel like that's the takeaway I got from this, is just like your personal limits and your limits in a couple are really limitless if you just allow them to be, and you really put your best effort into whatever you're working towards. A really inspiring story from a really inspiring person. Thank you, Sammy, for being on our show.
Yeah, thanks, Sammy.
Yeah, one more. Yeah, I really want to, if I could emphasize that, my wife and I are a team, and I did all the talking, but we moved together, right? And this is only possible because she's crazy enough to accept my craziness and go along with it.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
I really do.
No, that's powerful. Thanks, Sammy.
Yeah, and it was great. I love you guys. You're great friends. It's always nice to spend time together.
Thanks.
Likewise.